Thank you, Juan, for that introduction. As a project, a nonprofit, Mesa Prieta Petroglyph project has been in existence for 25 years. So this last year, we've had a series of programming honoring the project, our project volunteers, and the legacy of what we've recorded and documented on site. And you'll see examples of that in the panels here. It's also great to partner with the San Gabriel Historical Society, and we really think about, working with all of you in your own respective organizations to educate about the protection of sites, but also youth engagement and youth activities. And so we, have some summer youth alumni students here as well. What a great gathering. Walking in this morning, it was a beautiful drive, seeing the fall colors. And it's a really special time here. And I'm honored to host my brother, Navi Tupare, Art Cruz, Whaa, who's a very well-respected community person from OHKAY OWINGEH. He has a long legacy in really educating and understanding our Tewa traditions from northern New Mexico, but also our connections across to our neighboring villages of Hopi and Josu and others that he really tries to understand these complexities. He was mentored by one of our elders, Herman Agoyo, who I also knew growing up as a former governor and head councilman. And we have a great quote from him that we feature Herman's work that inspired a lot about the project. Herman worked initially with Catherine Wells to protect the site. And so there's a long legacy of collaboration from community members, tribal members, and local landowners to really just focus on the mission of the project. So I'm looking forward to hearing Art's story. We've shared a little bit about it together. As you know, we have a series of speakers, so I would encourage you to sign up for our newsletter and check our website, social media to get the latest updates on the project, especially what we have planned for 2025. Art grew up as a traditional farmer, and that really is his first classroom, is being out in the fields, irrigating, and you can still find him out cultivating and working the fields. And, that really says something about his upbringing and his groundedness. And so I'm always honored to have any conversations with Art, but, it's really something very special. So his formal classroom is the field, but he was educated in higher ed institutions from Haskell in Lawrence, Kansas. And so he brings just the wealth of information when it comes to traditional knowledge and Western knowledge systems too. So with that, again, Bipawave, and welcome Mr. Art Cruz, Mawapi. And he's going to start with his talk and his slideshow. And I know it's getting a little tight in here, so if everybody can just move over and or stand or free up your chairs if need be. But we're expecting one more, our founder, Catherine Wells, that we have a seat there. So Catherine's coming, so yeah, we want to save a seat for Catherine. Okay, Onko.
Good afternoon. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Arthur Cruz. My Tewa name is Whaa. I am from the Summer Clan from OHKAY OWINGEH. My presentation today is on the village of PHIOGEH. But before I start, there's a few introductions I want to make because my family, my daughter, my granddaughter are up here in front. Professor Scott Ortman in the back from Boulder University, an archaeologist. And so anyway, the story is based on the village of PHIOGEH Owingeh, which is located 2 miles from San Juan Pueblo, north. And in the early mid-80s, got involved in working with the governor from San Juan and archaeologists and tribal elders who wanted to document the story of the people from PHIOGEH Owingeh. My elders at the time were Mr. Herman Agoyo, Stephen Trujillo of the Winter Clan, Geronima Montoya, Winter, and Herman was Summer Clan. But in this time, when they gathered and started writing the story, it was a hit and miss. But as we went on, Mr. Agoyo got ill, and he entrusted me to finish the story, and that I did. I gave him my word that I would finish it, and before his time ended, I had presented it to him at his home, and I asked him how he felt about the story. He told me because he couldn't speak anymore, this was his sign to do. Turn it off. So anyway, at that point, I took it upon myself to finish the story. It took some time because I had to follow through with a lot of our people locally and with people from First Mesa and Hopi in following their story. But it is with that how we concluded the story. Our story starts from PHIOGEH Owingeh and up to First Mesa. It is to be understood that this story has 2 parts to it. The people in their journey out, and the people from First Mesa, welcoming them and accepting them. That is another story by itself, how they settle out there. But our story is from here and how they took the journey. So let me begin. It was then, back then, when our people migrated from Mesa Verde. It's called PHIOGEH for Mesa Verde. As they journeyed into the south on both sides of the Rio Grande and the Chama River, they then settled in the northern part of New Mexico and in the southern part of Santa Fe known as the Galisteo Basin. This is where our Tewa people settled. In that particular time in the Galisteo Basin, a village called San Cristobal Pueblo was a Tewa village that was forced out in 1630 by the Spanish people. The Pueblo people then moved to the Santa Cruz Creek area, where they settled and made their village called Tzayaware. This was part of the southern Tewa. Further north, 2 miles north of the present-day San Juan Pueblo, was the village of PHIOGEH. It is known as the home of the flicker. And it sits below the Black Mesa. Terms that have changed in the sense of the Black Mesa. In Tewa, we say Tsinwege, T-S-I-N. Tsin is the mesa, the Black Mesa. Wege is somewhere there. As part of the story unfolds, the people from Tzayaware were summoned by the Hopi people. Runners were sent to them asking for help with their dilemma out on First Mesa. So they responded, and they also then came to PHIOGEH. So they said in their story, somewhere there near Tsinwege is a village of warrior-like people, and that was PHIOGEH. The settlement of PHIOGEH was between 1250 and 1700. As I show this little clips here, the gentleman is standing on top of the kiva. It had been worked on before, but that's the site of PHIOGEH, and the background is Black Mesa in the back. In present day, it's on the location of Los Luceros property. The village sits on a hill and this is the outline of the village. On the hill was the foundation of the homes. Then, in the little valley below, where Los Luceros is today, were the fields and the summer homes of the people. In the backdrop is Black Mesa. On Black Mesa are where the petroglyphs are. The story of their lives are written on the rock. As you see with the exhibit here of the type of petroglyphs that are out there that symbolize the lives of our people. So I will start with the story. When the Hopis came asking for help, they were acknowledged by Tsaiwari. They then were also approached PHIOGEH OWINGEH. PHIOGEH OWINGEH was also dealing with hardships of what was happening in that era of the outside coming in and trying to force them out of their villages and their land. PHIOGEH OWINGEH at the time gathered its people in the plaza and asked them the request that was being made to join them in their journey to help the Hopi people. As they acknowledged that, they prepared a bundle of religious artifacts, coral necklace, turquoise necklace, and other religious content. And this bundle was taken up to the mesa and buried, for that in their return they would gather it back. But as we know, they never came back. But as they prepared to leave, some people didn't make the journey. They moved into the present day San Juan Pueblo. The rest of the group made their journey throughout into the Jemez. So as they made their campsite, they were contacted by Jemez runners to help them out with the dilemma they had with the whole region in this whole area was hit with a drought that affected most of the pueblos. The Tewa people were known for the power of rain. They acknowledged the request to help them, and they went to Jemez, known as Walatoa, and did their traditional dances for rain. The result of the religious dances brought sleet like ice to the whole region. There then, the Jemez people had asked for rain, but they got sleet. So they told the Tewa people to leave. So they left and went back to where they were in the Jemez area. A day or two later, Jemez runners were sent to get them at the request of the Cuba people. They wanted them to come back to apologize for the sleet had melted into water throughout the whole region and moisturized the land, and things started restoring itself. But nevertheless, the Tewa people said, no, you told us to leave. We're going on. So as they headed back on the trail, on the route to Tewa. There's a map indicating, as my talk goes, it'll change to the different sites that they left. So as they left into the Mount Taylor area, they also went down to first stop was Fort Wingate, where a spring, in Tewa we say Puquing, was made. They carried 4 bundles of prayer feathers, one for each spring that was made. The spring at Fort Wingate was called Kepo, meaning Bear Springs. From there they moved on to Fort Defiance. In Fort Defiance was another spring called Duck Springs. But in Tewa, in their language, it's called Opipo, meaning duck. But the terminology with our Eastern Tewa is Oving, meaning duck. But I realized that the words are cut short. They're like, so Opi versus Oving, you kind of get the feeling there. So that was the other spring in Fort Defiance. As they moved up into the Ganado area, Bamboo Springs. I can't pronounce it myself, but it's Bamboo Springs. And then the final step was into the Keams Canyon area. And the Keams Canyon area was another spring called Saipo. Saipo meaning boiling water. But in Tewa, on this side, we say Osaye. So it's like shrunk into shorter terms. So as they made their way down on the mesa of Kings Canyon, the Hopi people, the leaders, had promised the Tewa a better life, better land, water, farming, hunting. But when they got on top of the mesa and looked down into the valley, dismay settled in. All they saw was rolling sand dunes, barren land, and mesas in the background. The group that left was a big group, but they were started to change their mind about even turning back. The Tewa leaders said to them, we gave them our man word to the leader, to the people from Hopi, that we were going to come out and help. But in Tewa, we say Saintu, man word. That must have been very strong commitment to them, because They didn't want to break their promise. So as they went down the cliffs into the valley, the sand dunes, the Snake Chief, the Bear Clan people, they met the Tewa people and accepted them there. There's a shrine that indicates where they accepted the Tewa people. And as they were accepted, they were taken to the base of First Mesa, known as today as Polaca. There they settled and have two little villages representing Zanware and PHIOGEH people. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Galisteo Basin were the southern Tewa. The same language, but a little dialect change. And the northern Tewa. And if you go out there today, the dialects are a little different. They understand the way we talk, we understand them. In the PHIOGEH village at the time was a very lively village where the peoples were farmers, gatherers, hunters, and they made their daily lives. But as they left this place, they left somebody there at the village. And it happened to be an elderly lady. In the story, she's the grandmother, or in Tewa we say Saya, grandma. As the people left, they made their way in their journey to Hopi. The elderly lady walked to the village. She walked to the village daily, lonely, and one day she heard some crying in the distance somewhere. As she went through the buildings of the homes, she came across a young boy crying. He got left by the group. She then took it upon herself to take care of the child as her own and raised him. In the meantime, things are still going on with the group, traveling to Hopi. But the grandma raised this child, and in tradition, the child had to learn the ways, the traditional ways, before the strings were cut to leave the Pueblo. Growing up, he had to kill a mountain lion, eagle for feathers, survival skills. So when the day came to leave and grew up, the young boy now took it upon himself to find out the route that the Tewa people took. He ventured into different villages to find out And as he found out, he started hitting the trail and running into the springs that were established by the Tewa people. And when he got his way into Kings Canyon, the young man climbing the cliffs, and those of you that have been out to Hopi country, you know what cliffs are there, the mesas. And he went through there, no sign of life, looking for life. But as he went further into the area, he thought he heard something with the wind, voices. So he started descending into the valley there, the little hills. He heard laughter, talking. They sounded like girls. But he got down there and he started going through the little ravines. Now he heard clearly the laughter of ladies talking. And he peeked over the little hill, and there he saw the ladies getting water out of a spring and filling their water jars. He then made it upon himself to go and let him know who he was and what he was looking for. When he got to that, they told him they were Tewa. And he told himself, them, that he was Tewa, and he was looking for his family. And in that group of ladies, they told him, your sisters are here. And they took him into the village where they were greeted by his family and had a celebration because he came home. But as the boy grew into manhood out there, he took a wife, and he decided to return back to New Mexico. He did not return to PHIOGEH OWINGEH. He returned to San Ildefonso, PHIOGEH OWINGEH. As to the elderly lady, the grandmother, she passed on and made her journey home. But today, the cultural activity, the traditionalism of our Tewa people are very strong there. They still carry out their traditional way of life, their farming, their pottery making. But the thing is that at this point, our people got there. In later life, I just want to share something with you. The story from PHIOGEH to Tewa is our story. The second half of this story is written in a book called Hopi History. It takes it from the point from where the Tewa people were taken to the bottom of the mesa where they lived. And from that point, the Hopis then took them up to the top. And the reason why our people went out is because the Hopis were being invaded by other tribes, but mostly the Utes. So the Tewa warriors are the ones that help save the Hopi people. In that period of time, there were only 7 warriors left at First Mesa, or 7 families. They were called the Walpi 7. So with that, is the rest of their story on their side is how they were accepted, how they helped, how they were given the land, how they dealt with their language. And there they are today. They lived there. From First Mesa up north was land given to them, known as Nampanyu, snake land. That's where Tewa people live. But throughout the years, intermarriages have happened. So a lot of our Tewa people have moved to the other villages through marriage. But there is a lot of intermarriages. But it is important to understand that we, as Tewa people, even though we're the people Tewa from the east, we're that far apart, but in our hearts, we are one. And the dialect is pretty much the same. When the kivas that are out there are also that similar to the eastern side, Tewa, winter and summer. The Tewa language is a mixture of Hopi and Tewa on one side and Tewa on the other side. So it is, but they do work together as one people. And in the early years, when my brother Herman Agoyo, we were asked to do a presentation at Tewa, and we had presented them the statue of Popeye. And there was a big gathering of the Tewa people, celebration, the various dances from both Hopi and Tewa, acknowledging the combining of one people and that we are still recognize them. The other part, knowing that our people came from Mesa Verde, we all have our Aboriginal boundaries. From Mesa Verde to Mount Wheeler to Sandia Peak, Mount Taylor, the Jemez, Tacoma, and back to Mesa Verde. But now, because of our people are now in First Mesa. It extends our area to First Mesa. And that is the Tewa Aboriginal boundaries. So anything in that boundary, our people have had access to those sites long before the coming of the outsiders. So today, it affects our people in the way of water rights, and we deal with that. But there's still an issue that's being contested, but we had a wide range. I just want to say that the reason being out there, I am Tewa. I am from the Summer Clan. But in the early years, as I visited Tewa, First Mesa, I was introduced to the traditional way of life there. An elder from the Kiva, Munete, the middle Kiva, for the Tewa, asked me one day, Art, what's your Indian name? I said, Whaa. Huh, he said, come here. He took me back to a clearing in the mesa and said, look, you see that mesa? I said, what mesa? Well, there's a lot of mesas. He said, the furthest one way back. Okay? He said, that is Whaa. And it hit me. I bear my grandfather's name, Whaa. And then I realized being entrusted to write this story and doing the research, I never knew then that our Tewa people came out here. But now I realize the connection of our ancestral people, and even my grandfather might have been from there. So I took it upon myself to give and learn the Tewa way at First Mesa. I've gone through the initiation process. I am Tewa. And the gentleman that showed me and taught me became my Indian godfather. His name was Thomas Palaka. So my heart and giving myself into doing this story has become something personal. As I ventured into Hopi, learning about and having them share their stories from their elders of how it was then, the journeys, the hardships. It was hard, some didn't want to open up, but later on they opened up as to what they've gone through, their elders, and where they are today. But this is when you get there, they say, when did you come home? Personally. They greet you right away. Going back to the map, as they came down from the mesa into the valley to Hopi, they inscribed the symbols of their clans into the rock. They were the Bear Clan, the Corn Clan, Tobacco Clan, Pine Clan, Sun Clan, Earth Clan, the Kachina Clan, and the Cloud Clan. These were the groups that made the journey out to Tewa, Hopi. So today, some of these clans no longer exist. And as I got out there, my clan was the Sun Clan, but to us here on this side is summer. They no longer have the Sun Clan, but if you're related that way, they call you grandfather. They respect that. You become an elder because that clan is no longer there. But these were the clans that came from both sides of Taiwade and PHIOGEH OWINGEH. So I think that if people, it's kind of like there's two sides of the story. One Kiwa has its own story, the other one has another story. So this story is to make it sure that they combine and being able to pass the knowledge and share with the new generation of the peoples from the Mexico side and the Tewa side. There are springs out there that I realize that are the same names that we have here in OHKAY OWINGEH. In First Mesa, there are the springs called Kahelepokwige. It's a spring that's in the bottom, the base of the mounds of the villages that were made when they first came out there. Another spring is called Yamka Tsawapokwige. Has to deal with the willows on the spring. The other one is called Powipokwige, flower spring. But that spring is a spring related to San Cristobal. If you know where San Cristobal is, or Cienega area, going up towards La Bajada Hill on the west side, that was where that spring is. So the names have been taken in, and they're the names that are also out there that relate to the Tewa. So and doing, feeling that putting this story and trying to finish it and complete it, in which Mr. Agoyo was venturing to do with the rest of the elders. But it's this that been working out through the years, and things keep popping up. More openness to sharing the story. Even the people from Hopi land that have intermarried. I'll share this with you. We mentioned a grandma, an elderly lady in the story. I got a phone call one day within the year, and a Kiba brother of mine from roadside Kiba, Tangi, called me from another village, Hope Villa. He says to me, Brother Art, I understand you're the one that I can talk to regarding our village, PHIOGEH. They say you're the only one that knows about it. So I shared what I knew, how I got to this point. But he tells me, we've been gathering with our family members, distant relatives from Hopi, trying to teach our kids of our history. But he says, our elders say our grandmother was from PHIOGEH. We want to go out and honor her with prayer feathers. So, and when I say they've opened up, they're realizing the ancestral history. And how does that tie into the grandmother in the story? Makes you wonder. The Tewa people, Kiba people, well, first of all, this area of the village was excavated many years ago. But where this gentleman is standing is on top of the kiva. As some of the kiva leaders came out and we went to the site, offering cornmeal to the Father Son, we stood there praying. And out of the blue, we got encircled by butterflies all around. The elder said in a low tone of voice, Palaka. Which means butterfly. We also took the little trip up to the mesa to another site of a large pictorial rock of the Avenue. We stood there, all for a cornmeal. The same thing happened. They were encircled by butterflies. They were greeted. They were welcomed to their home. As I said, the stories are written up on the rock. This is a pictorial of the Pueblo Revolt. Our people were part of that Pueblo Revolt. It is telling you the history of what our people went through and what they faced in that time. It is not about just showing the lives on the rock, but it's what they suffered over their land and their traditional way of life. So the Pueblo PHIOGEH from 1250 to 1700. In 1680 was the Pueblo Revolt. And within the 12 years later, the second coming came. But the people didn't want to be part of that. So that was another decision in leaving and going to Hopi. Because after that, things and Spanish settlements then took over Indian land. But here we are today, we're still here. Maybe even stronger, even wiser. But we protect our land, our language, our way of life. So, in sharing this with you, I hope that it kind of clarifies and people now know where PHIOGEH is and the village. It's not just about Los Luceros. Los Luceros based on our people. That's where things generated from the village, the valley, and Sapirda. This is the home of the Tewa people. So there is a lot to see out there. There's also a lot to know about the Tewa people and our relationship now with First Mesa. So with this, I thank you all for being here, and I hope that I have answered some thoughts of the area, of the Tewa people. I, on the other hand, do traditional oral stories that have been passed on or that have been a revelation through visions about the environment, of what we're facing on the hill, of things that it's all in between on Tewa land. But those are other stories and messages that have been sent on how we should make our decision regarding the outside corporations, the energy sources that are now coming in that affect our people, the valley, not just us, non-Indians as well that now live in the area, that affect our aquifer. How do we react? How do we face them? We have to fight a government uphill, but as people whose lives are at stake, messages have been sent. So decisions you see today on Facebook or whatever, you see people saying no to the pipeline. But one thing I wanted to share is that in these messages regarding the environment, as it relates to Hopi, a vision was shared to me regarding the environment from our elders from Mesa Verde. But one day, the Pueblo San Juan was having dances. And as they danced, I recognized some people that weren't from the village, from another Pueblo. And as we moved around dancing to different plazas, I see him standing at my home in the porch. And as we broke to lunch, I go home, my mom tells me, son, there's some people here to see you. And I said, who? They're from Hopi. I said, oh. So as I go into the living room, they met me and they said, we're looking for Arthur Cruz. I said, I am Arthur. And what was interesting and somewhat awkward is when they said to me, you were shown to us. We had to find you. We need to talk to you. You need to share what was given to you. And that had to do with a vision that was given to me. But how it affected them was to be learned. But as the time passed, the elder was from Hope Villa. He sat on a board called the NAPRA board that had to do with the environmental stuff in our land. As we talked, and as I journeyed out there and shared the message regarding our elders, ancestral people, the gentleman fell ill. As I found out later, he passed on. And I also was told him sitting on the board and the message that they got had to do with Peabody coal mine. They severed their contract for they dealt with our mother, the aquifer, the water. The water is life, but how it affected the whole reservation. Nothing says that the same way of digging into the aquifer and shifting it around. The contaminants that come down and into the wells, it just don't affect Indian people. So this is another message that I share. But when some things like that happen, I wonder, for some reason, things are shown and shared, and I share with my Pueblo people because they're still here. Another tribal elder said to me, in those earlier years, the beginning, our ancestral people had a 360-degree peripheral vision of our environment. Today, we probably only have a third of that. So something has to be done in order to get control of our environment. We are not the only peoples that live on this land. And we have to deal with those issues of how it affects us and the generations to come. So I share that with you. That's there. So with this, I want to thank you. Gunda, or Gunda Whaa, really thank you. I have some elders here from Hopi.
Do you want to introduce them?
Huh?
You want to introduce
Yeah.
your guests?
You stood up now? Now this is one of the elders from the First Mesa area. I'm fortunate for her to be here today. We did not share what we had to share.
Just like to greet each and every one of you. My name is Mona Polaka, and on my paternal grandma's side, I'm from Hopi and Tewa. On my paternal grandpa's side, I'm Tewa, and from the First Mesa, Polaka, Arizona. But I was born and raised in Parker, Arizona, on the Colorado River. Indian tribes, and it's wonderful to make this connection. Thomas Polacco was one of my Tewa grandpas. My paternal grandpa is Starry Polacco, Sr. And on my mother's side, I'm Havasupai, from down in the Boston Grand Canyon, the people of the Blue Green Waters. And it's wonderful to know about the connection. One of my grandpas, Tewa grandpa at First Mesa in the Tewa village, had told me when I first met him, he said, you have to come home. You have to come home. There's a long story that you have to hear. And that really kind of like piqued my curiosity about our family line. And I had always been told that my Tewa grandpas were warriors from the warrior people of the Tewa, and that about the story about how they, as the warriors, had come to Hopi to protect them, to protect the Hopi, and so it's I feel like when one of my Tewa nephews called me and told me this was happening today. When I told him I was here, he said, "You've come home." And so it's such a wonderful feeling to hear these stories, our history, our family history, and to feel so connected and feel at home. My family was relocated from Hopi to Parker, Arizona, in the early 40s when the reservation was established. But my Hopi grandma there that moved with us, we were raised always calling Hopi land home. And so now it's like, so here I am on my paternal grandpa's side, coming back home. And it's amazing to me that, they always say, our ancestors are our guides. And they're the ones who show us the way, just like these petroglyphs here, that I was told that's, that to us, that's our, the sign that we've been here before. We've always been here, and our ancestors left those symbols there to let us know that this is our home, our connection, and that we should always take care of it because they taught us the basic ways of survival, and that those basic ways of survival is like a basic consciousness about how we are to live, how we are to survive. And now you mentioned some of the environmental issues and things like that our people, not only indigenous people, but all people. And so it really touches my heart. I'm honored to be able to be here and hear your presentation. I'm hoping that this is only the beginning of our connection, our relationship, that we could continue to be in touch with each other. And I send my deepest respect and honor to the work that you are doing, and being a voice for our ancestors, so that anyone who comes in contact with these our markers, that they will honor it and respect it and preserve it and take care of it, because these have existed from time immemorial, and there aren't any more like it. We as present day human beings, what kind of markers are we leaving? They left us something. They left us these ways for us to live, our life ways, our basic survival skills. And I'm honored that our Pueblo people, our people have upheld those instructions of how to continue to live and take care of life, so we could survive, and our future generations that are yet to come, the ones we will not see. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Are there any questions, or folks can come up and ask you questions? I want to make sure that there's also time for those of you who haven't seen the walk through, that you just spend some time with the. I invite you to learn more about our project and come out and visit and book tour. We welcome all of you. So I also want to introduce our founder, Kathy Wells. Kathy, do you want to say?
Hi, Catherine.
If you're a volunteer, recorder, can you raise your If you want to be a volunteer recorder, raise your hand. At the bond house, we're always looking for recorders. So if you have questions about the project, feel free to reach out to myself. I also want to our new project archaeologist who started with us, Jared. And Jared's also an archaeologist, Vicky. Honorary. So welcome to northern New Mexico. Yeah. And if you have questions about booking a tour and what that looks like, Sandy Romero's our tours and education coordinator. Our project, here's a gift for you. Kundawoha. Thank you for your words and your time. Your stories provide a lot of context to approach the work that we're thinking about leadership, about education, these stories, and they're always intertwined. And you guys visiting from Hopi, you're not visiting, you're coming back home. You also have a story too. And so to be continued, this is the exciting part of the project, is all connected. People as stewards. So thank you for wrapping it up. So, yeah. Thank you. Did anybody have any questions or want to come or watch the exhibit? We're pretty flexible. And this is recorded, so this will be on YouTube channel.
I want to thank every. I'm sorry we didn't.